Hello, everybody, and welcome to week number 2 of the Risen Dominate League here. I am Quacks, joined today by Bubble. Thank you for stepping in on such short notice, Bubble. Really appreciate it. And here, it's a new meta. It's 14-19. It has hit the Rift, completely changed up the way many teams have begun playing the game. And I would imagine that change is definitely going to be seen here in this series today. So I want to get your opinion a little bit, Bubble, what do you think we're going to be seeing, going forward in regards to these teams? What do you think are going to be some of the big power picks that are going to be shown, from one or both of these squads? As we are playing just in regular Fearless, this is not true Fearless.
Yeah, I think with the patch change, there's so many changes to not only champions, but items specifically. You
Hmm.
also saw the comeback of Lethal Tempo. That
Yep.
has been one of those runes that was taken out. It was too OP. You had bruisers abusing the heck out of it. Now, though,
Yeah.
it's a stacking rune that Vayne, Kog'Maw, and champions that want to build those speed items are falling in love with all over again.
For sure. I think Lethal Tempo has really influenced kind of the big power picks in the bot lane. You talked about the Vayne, you talked about the Kog'Maw, but I think some other champions that are really good are the ones that can abuse range, right? The ones I'm thinking of are the Jinx, the Zeri. Ashe has been kind of pick or ban, at least from what I've seen so far. Everyone loves the utility that champion provides, and it also opens up other lanes that you can carry on through because Ashe really is that utility based champion that, doesn't necessarily need to be fed, but it's always nice when it is. But on top of just the AD carry changes, we've also seen a lot of things phased out over the last couple of patches. In particular, marksman in the mid lane, that isn't really a thing anymore. The Corkis, the Tristanas, they're all gone. Jungle is seeing a little bit of a meta shift as well. AP junglers are not nearly as strong as they used to be. Brand, Zyra, Lilia. I haven't seen a Zyra jungle in a month, which has been an absolute heaven fest for me as a jungler myself. It's more so shifted to low economy, full clear tanky junglers. Things like the Jarvan come to mind, things like the Skarner come to mind. So a lot of meta shifts going on around through the game. And I think Fearless just really amplifies sort of what these teams are going for, and those power picks and their importance are going to be rising as this game goes on. In particular, I kind of want to take a look at that mid lane as well, right? We said that the gone are the days of those AD marksmen. Now we're kind of shifting over to Storm Surge abusers, right? The LeBlanc, the Syndra. So I'm kind of curious on your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think we're going to just kind of see Storm Surge Fest in the mid lane, or do you think there are some other, hidden picks? There's some other hidden strategies that other mid laners can use to kind of one up each other?
Yeah, right now I think Storm Surge just kind of gained back its relevance due to the fact its gold to value is right
Yes.
back to what it should be.
Hmm.
Every mid laner's loving it if you can abuse it. That's where you're seeing Diana come back in. Aries are popping in. There's such great mages across the board that can pick this item up, grab it, but you also have Magic Pen on it. Magic
Yeah.
Pen early on in this game is going to be crucial, especially against those tankier players that are going to be in jungle and top lane. Also support. There's a lot of good gold efficiency items that haven't changed for those roles that are going to be crucial to kind of draft into your builds early on in this split.
I agree with that. I think, pen just across the board, we're talking about armor pen, magic pen, whatever you want to call it, kind of a rarer stat nowadays. They really took away, being able to get that your hands on that right out of the gate. Sword shoes, though, was I would say the boots that got hit the least in all of these changes. Really, when you look at boots that got hit by 1419, you can look at kind of Merc treads in particular. Ionian boots lost a lot of its haste. That's another stat along with Magic Pen that has kind of been dumbed down a lot in terms of when you look at item stats. They really aren't. They're really making sure that we're no longer playing Earth. We're playing actual League of Legends this time around. So yeah, I think M Pen has really been kind of the big, get go for a lot of these mid laners. Those that can kind of rush it and cheat the low economy have seen themselves being really good. And you kind of pair that up with other champions that can abuse things like Ludens, like Shadowflame, get that extra pen, get that extra little tick of damage. But while we're on the topic of mages, I kind of feel like something we have to also keep our eye out for are those mages in the bot lane. We have kind of seen the rise of Ziggs, or rather not the rise, but the maintain status of Ziggs being really relevant in that bot lane as we do hop into the draft for game number one here. Rek'Sai going to be the first ban away. And yeah, I would expect a lot of those junglers to be heavily prioritized in this first phase.
Yeah, I think jungle is going to be a top priority role in general for this split early on, just till people kind of get back to comfort, understand where their champions are following, just because all these changes are going to drastically shift where your player spikes are. It's not going to be as early, it's going to feel later, and you're looking more for those 30 to 35-minute games to really start feeling
Mhm.
comfortable and be relevant in your team fight.
Games have been, kind of longer now, right? Obviously, that was
Yeah.
kind of the old goal with this. So, that 35-minute mark, I think, is where we're going to see a lot of these games start to differ in terms of, build pathing. I think, instead of like the 20-minute mark, we're going to be seeing it extended over to that 35-minute mark where a lot of the power spikes and items come through. So that opens up a lot of early aggressive play. And that's kind of geared to where some of the bans are being targeted this time around. The Rek'Sai was taken away. Very relevant jungler in the early game. Also, probably a comfort pick for not important as well. And we're starting to see the Braum as well, a very lane dominant support who's able to block that incoming damage. The Ziggs that we mentioned earlier also taken off the table. Some junglers left open, and I'm wondering if Abandoned Lewis actually want to go for it, or if they want to go for the all-important mid lane queen herself, the Syndra. Syndra really has been the big B1 so far in this game. There are a couple of options that Flash Syndicate could go in order to respond, but I'm thinking the Jarvan, very in your face, and it also pairs well with a lot of good mid laners. I think if they want to pair it up with the LeBlanc, that could be a really smart idea. Or they could try to save their mid laner for just a little bit later in this game.
Yeah, the Syndra is going to be crucial, but the one downside with her is she is so dependent on that, flashback from her E to kind of stop any engaging rampage on her. Orianna, kind of a classic go back lane. Both control mages gonna really kind of keep that poke central mindset of they want to control the lane how they want. You're not going to enter how you want to play it. They will dictate what you will do.
For sure. They're going to dictate, I think, the scaling of this game as well. Jarvan really is going to be a caveat for a lot of those, big shockwaves. I like this Ashe being hovered here, a very flexible champion. Like we talked about, its utility, it knows no bounds. And pairing it up with Emilio, you're setting yourself up for a poke lane. I feel like poke has been a really underrated stat so far this split, but I like that it's paired up with the Syndra. A lot of lockdown is being accomplished here by the Abandoned Lewis comp. Now I'm really interested to see what Flash Syndicate are going to go for. I imagine they're wanting to go for an 80 carry. They don't want more of those to be banned away. So I'm thinking maybe Jinx could go good. You could go for something like the Zeri. That's another option. I think those are probably the two primetime ADCs that we've seen in the meta so far. But they're actually going to switch to support and at the last millisecond pick up that Bard.
Interesting pick. You know, I'm not a huge fan of Bard in general as a support. He's such a Warden support. He wants to be roaming. You're really counting on your ADC to be comfortable and just control the lane on their own. You can go make plays across the rift.
Yeah. For sure. I also think that Bard had lost a lot of value in 14.19, particularly because of the changes in experience when you kill wards. You no longer get XP from killing wards. So roaming as a thing is just not necessarily as strong as it used to be. But I would expect Bard, like you said, to be roaming. That means that we're probably going to see an 80 carry who's more comfortable with, like you said, Bubble, staying in the lane, being able to play 1v2. Some champions that kind of come to mind who are comfortable with that. Things like the Xayah are possible. Things like the Jhin are also possible. I've been seeing a lot of Jhin popped up lately. As we do fire through the bans, a lot of focus up toward that top lane in particular. Yeah, I think Jhin would be really, really good here. I think the curtain call is a very good tool, especially when you've already got so much engage. I like to see it hovered. I would like to see it locked in. Overall, I also think that there are a lot of tools he can use to lock down opponents, and lockdown is something that, similar to the EOD comp that we've seen, it seems like FD are also comfortable with that as well. So yeah, that's going to be locked in here.
Yeah, I feel like that was honestly a great pickup on the side of uh Flash Syndicates.
Yeah.
It's gonna be crucial. This Jin has those blossoms. He's going to dictate how much this Melio is going to be able to take Bush priority in the bot lane against him. It's going to be a great disengage tool for him, but a great initiation too if he can lock down some early kills on Ash or Melio if they're out of position too.
And I kind of like this Tom Kench going forward because one of those big counter picks is the Olaf as well. And so that was already taken off the table. If I'm thinking of other counter picks, I'm thinking maybe Renekton could be a good call. We're kind of going for a 5 point, kind of a death ball comp here. Renekton with that dominus has still maintained its importance, its priority. I think Cassante could also be really good if you're looking to maybe eject Emilio or any of the frontliners from EOD out of this comp. But other than that, I think there are also just maybe some lane bullies, things that can try to toss the Tom Kench around. And it's looking like we'll get an update as to what that champion was, as it was locked in at the last millisecond. Didn't come through on the draft lull.
Yeah, Tom Kent right now is such a great abuser of hearts. Heartsteel again, a
Hmm.
gold efficient item that only had a small change with its speed scaling. Such a small change, but the item's gold efficiency wasn't changed.
Yeah.
Hasn't changed its build path, wasn't increased in gold, so you're going to be able to actually utilize how great that item is and how much he can actually proc that passive
Yeah.
scaling on it.
And I did
Ju-
just get word that that fifth pick was the Volley Bear, so that is going to be the top lane matchup. It will be the Tom Kench versus the Volley Bear. Overall, not the worst champion in the world. I really feel like Flash Syndicate are going all in on this sort of tower dive comp, and Volley Bear, of course, able to use that Stormbringer to turn off the towers. So I think that that will have a lot of value. The question becomes, can they get that Volibear out of the laning phase? Because this is a champion that really thrives in, that sort of 1 to 2 item spike. After that, the champion loses a little bit of damage and more so builds toward being a tank frontline kind of champion who can utilize its Q to get any kind of picks. In this game, though, I really find it difficult, a difficult time for Volibear to leave the top lane outside of them just straight up breaking the top lane tower. And, towers were extra fortified. Grubs are going to be, I think, difficult for them to come by this time around because I think Abandoned Lewis have really drafted a comp that's more geared toward zone control, getting those neutrals, making sure you control the space that surrounds them, and they are and making sure they are yours. Maokai in particular, really good at using those saplings in the bushes, makes it so difficult for you to walk up. Syndra's got that scatter of the weak. Tom Kench has that eat, so if they do get into the backline, he is able to save one of the carries that might be in that exchange. Overall, if I'm looking at fights, I definitely favor Abandoned Lewis, but I do think Flash Syndicate have a very tried and true combo, but it really heavily hinders on this Orianna being fed and the carries being able to do damage because past 2 items, that Jarvan's not going to be relevant to doing damage. That Volibear, like we said, is not going to be relevant to do damage. You need these late game carries to be activated as early as possible, or else you're facing a very difficult late game against a very late game scaling comp.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that. Something to keep in mind too is with the changes to the recent items, Volibear has been starting to lean towards that tanky build again. Going with
Mm-hmm.
a grasp, throwing a heart seal on him, let him scale up. I think that wouldn't be a hateful change just with this team comp. Let him be an engager, let him aggress with the J4, and let's really start diving down that back line. I think that's going to be a huge play for Flash Syndicates in this team comp that they have drafted.
I think the big thing for Volibear this game is engaging, but more on a flank angle, right? Because if you can get Volibear into that back line, if you can find those flanks on that champion, I think Winnery Chard. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that name. It's Dominate. They have strange names all the time. Welcome to the league bubble. If he can get some of those flank TPs that are more synonymous with like Renekton flanks that we see in like competitive play, then I think they'll be eating really good because they've got Jarvan and Orianna combo on one side, the Volibear Stormbringer on the other side. This will really divide a team that wants to stick together. And I think if they're able to divide them, beat them down one by one, that's how they're going to win a lot of these fights. But I agree with you. A lot of it hinders on Volibear being tanky enough to, take some of this damage, being tanky enough to get into that flank angle, and just having room in order to get out of that laning phase. Because still, I think that's really going to be the biggest challenge going forward for Flash Syndicate.
Yeah, definitely, gonna be something we have to watch. The Flicker Blade build path that Volley had has just fallen off, so I think it's gonna be interesting to see how they're gonna utilize him across the board. But, they obviously are the players, we're the casters. I believe in their plan more than I would believe in myself, so there is that.
and the players believe in each other. That is the reason why they are both 1-0 here. A 2-0 start would be absolutely gigantic for either of these teams going forward into the Dominate League. And we're going to have to wait and see which of these teams is going to start off this series with a high note. But until then, we are going to go to a small little break while we wait for the spectator delay to catch on to us. So next time you see us, we'll be on to the Rift. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Told you it'd be a small break. We are back here for the Risen Dominate Week 2 League between Abandoned Lewis and Flash Syndicate. And what better way to start off the series than with a pause bubble?
I mean, let's be honest, it's just like a game-winning strategy, right? Like, who doesn't like that extra time? Build a little, like, team quick, like, hurrah. Like,
There we
I love
go.
it.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is. I've seen worse pauses. I believe I had a cast yesterday where one player was basically about to be killed and then immediately paused right on, like a 10 HP champion. And that is definitely a Fnatic pause right there. Luckily, though, we aren't going to, hopefully, run into any of those this time around, as we are just getting through a quick spectator freeze here. This always happens after a pause. That new Bard skin. Thank you, Carria, for granting us this amazing piece of art.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Honestly, T1 skins, they came out, they were beautiful. I mean, I own several. I don't think if you have one, you regret it by any means.
30 seconds until
And I mean, I'm just going to throw our producer under the bus here. I definitely think that Chippy likes that skin the most, as that was the one that we focused on. No shame in that, though. I am a Korea lover as well. But I am also a fan of good League of Legends. And so far, it's looking like teams having a bit of an opposite strategy here. On one side, we've got a stack in the bush here for Abandoned Lewis, and Flash Syndicates are just doing a 5-stack.
Minions have spawned.
Yeah, definitely they could have engaged if they wanted. I'm not a huge fan right now in the meta doing it. I just don't think there's enough priority to do some early aggression in someone else's jungle. But, every man to himself.
Every man to himself. And it looks like the men in the jungle are going to be starting on relatively the same sides here. Maokai starting on his red, Jarvan starting on his blue. So they'll be pathing up toward the top lane. an interesting choice, as I honestly figured a lot of priority would be built up toward those bot laners, but the top lane does have a lot more lockdown in the case of Volibear. This is a point and click stun. For Tom Kench, it's an 80% slow skill shot mixed with a knockup. So there is a lot of lockdown with those 2v2 combos. I think both of these junglers just want to get started as early as possible, try to run over the map in early game fashion like they do. Especially the case for the Jarvan, who, like we said in the draft, definitely falling off after those first two items. So it's going to be up to Not Important to really make his mark on this game in those first, 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Just some minor training here across the board with mid and top. Top laners, they're going to be slapping each other around. And that's just kind of the normal thing, being a solo island at the top there. Maybe they're looking to make some fish meat. I don't know. I love a good fish stick once in a while, but, you know, it it doesn't taste good enough without tartar sauce, and I don't think you're going to get any on the Rift today.
No, I don't think anyone on the Rift is necessarily a chef who would know how to make that right out of the gate. In fact, I think if you asked Volibear, he would actually get really mad at you. But in the meantime, just a bit of continuation of trading in the top lane and a bit of trading in the bot lane as well. This is the power of Emilio Ash, having that extra little bit of range, really being able to abuse the short range Bard. He's got, about half HP, very low mana though, so the Bard that we were anticipating would be, very fond of roaming, there really isn't any potential for that at this point in the game. Lewis, though, was spotted out on that ward, so he's actually going to drop the Gromp. He realizes he doesn't have priority in that top lane, and the Jarvan, he doesn't have any information on, so he's not going to chance it. Smart move by Lewis, but it is going to be an advantage in tempo for the side of Flash Syndicate for the time being.
Yeah, it just looks like both junglers right now are trying to gain some vision control across the board, getting these early scuttles for not only grubs, but dragon as well, trying to really set themselves up for trading objectives here. Both teams know they're going to want something. They want the gold income. They're not going to care probably this early what it is, as long as no one's getting the full 6 grubs. I think that's the only thing they're going to focus on.
They're taking control of the top side is going to be pivotal to a victory in this game, and I like what Not Important is doing. They had a ward on the Gromp, realized it wasn't taken. A bit too late for the dive, though, as Yistriol, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is going to get the full reset off. There was maybe a window for a dive there by the top side of Flash Syndicate, but it has passed. No real opportunity, though, for Abandoned Lewis to get anything on the map. Really, it's just that bot lane poking on out the Bard and the Jhin. But yeah, like we said, topside control, very vital to this game. And so far, it just feels like with the pickaxe being complete, with more damage, I would say, across the top side of Flash Syndicate, and that ward also being placed down, being able to track where this Maokai is, it certainly feels like they are playing the long game in terms of information.
Yeah, looks like Maokai's trying to look for a pick here, potentially in the bot side. Not going to go in on anything, kind of just backing off, zoning. Trying to play smart with J4 coming back in from his blue side jungle. Trying not to over-aggress, don't want to feed early kills to anyone on this opposing team. Looks like tunnels coming through. J4 trying to engage into the Ashe. Misses. Done over from Bard, but nothing to really lock down to get a kill here. Kind of a loose-ended trade, but works out in the favor of EOD today.
But it's not the end of the world for Flash Syndicate. They managed to basically crash on that wave and give the reset over to Lian and Bento at the same time. So it doesn't net them a kill. It doesn't even net them any summoner spells, but it does give that bot side of Flash Syndicate the opportunity to spend their gold, and potentially opens up a window for Bento to finally get those roaming shoes on, roam up toward those grubs, spawning in a little less than 20, or now 10 seconds, actually. Curiously though, Bard still on the bot side of the map, wanting to stick around for the Jhin. Priority so far favoring the side of EOD, not to mention Orianna forced to back without teleport, so these are just going to be the first 3 grubs given over to the Maokai and co.
Yeah, it definitely looks like J4 would like to try and find a pick. Not sure he's going to be able to engage in. Volley is rotating down from top lane, trying to stop the Maokai. Looks like they are successful in getting him to at least zone off. Probably going to clear out those 2 grubs there just to kind of give themselves back the control that they wanted in that pit all along.
Good bit of reading there coming out from Lewis. Recognizes that the top side priority does not favor him, that the Volibear is going to be rotating, and most importantly, that Not Important really wants those grubs. So it's going to be 2 apiece for Flash Syndicate. Meanwhile, Abandoned Lewis still getting the 1. So a relatively even trade across the board. Speaking of trades, a lot of that is going on in the bot lane, but not a lot of health is being dropped just with how much healing is going on between the Melio and the Bard.
Yeah, 2 great passive healers there. Looks like Bard's trying to knock a stun onto the Ashe here.
Ooh!
Jen flashes forward to knock, the grenade and shot off. Just not enough damage quite early on to get the kill onto Ashe. Great aggression, though. Hyper aggression to keep that Ashe behind is going to be really big across the board. She's going to be a CC machine the later on this game is going to get.
But that also opens up a lot more important, angles for Not Important now, who took that reset after getting those grubs, is on the bot side of the map. So this Ashe, without those summoners, without that extra little bit of protection, and especially without that mana, is in a very precarious situation. It looks like Jojte is going to be able to finally get that reset off. I mean, Lewis is in the area, so if a dive were to happen, or a curtain call were to happen, they could just block it.
Curtain coming out from Jin, trying to get onto Ashe here. Jotei playing it safe, getting out. Looks like the cleanse coming through on from the Jin to get away from Maokai's grasp there. Melio kind of going to get called out here. Just 2 forward, J4 on him, wall coming down. And it looks like J4 is still wanting to get a kill here. He's chasing down this Maokai. Kill onto Ashe from the Terry 7. And Maokai finally falls down as well. Lots of damage going on real quick. Some's being burned, ults going through. These teams really wanted to make a play. Looks like Best 13 season was trying to get down there, just couldn't get down fast enough to really make any kind of counter plays to all the hyper aggression that the J4 wall was able to bring out.
Yeah, a bit of a late roam coming out there from the Syndra, but nonetheless, really, really good resolve there from Not Important. Did not want to let that Melio go. Managed to get that Cataclysm off, but by extension, that Cataclysm goes, he changes kind of positions, is now on the other side of the turret, so it's an easy pinch maneuver to get on toward that Ashe. They pick her off, and they get out scot-free. No objective, though, in that regard. They did not get the dragon along with it, and Stormbringer is coming down to the top lane, but it looks like the Tahm Kench is perfectly fine fighting this, maybe.
Yeah, Volibear's trying to engage in here onto the Tahm Kench. Tahm Kench able to come through and get that kill. Yastel is able to get that kill onto Winter Richard, or however they want to pronounce that name, unfortunately.
Winnie Richard, I think.
Terrible English. But great kill from the Tahm Kench there. Strong early sums for him. Going to be great with that Grasp. Grasp is just one of those items that, in runes, it's so forgotten until it procs, and then you're like, oh, all right, awesome, we're living.
Grasp diff for sure there in the top lane, but it also kind of equalizes the gold that had kind of caused a rift between the 2 top laners. Winnie Richard in particular had around a 20 CS lead over that Tahm Kench, so getting that kill, being able to, shrink that CS lead in the process, shoving in that wave on the top side turret, means that now the deficit in top not nearly as bad, and it does mean that other lanes can be more focused on by Not Important, or rather by Lewis, because it feels like that bot lane is certainly struggling at this point in the game bubble. That early double kill coming through on the Flash Syndicate's bot side really set them behind, and it feels like that is going to propel them forward to potentially go for the Dragons later on. Having that bot side river control, super, super vital to 2 teams that really just want to scale up and get toward those 30 minutes.
Yeah, that Bard was rotating into mid, trying to get a pick onto Best 13, just not able to get the ultimate to land, unfortunately, to set up some great counterplay with Orianna. Not always perfect. It's a slower ult. It's got a little bit of a delay before it lands. Just unfortunate play around, but on the side of Best 13, they were able to get away, keep pushing their lane out, and not lose any CS in that trade.
They're actually helping out with the second spawn of Grub, so it is going to be 4 for the Flash Syndicate. As we got to fight in the top side here. Trades being met across the board. Stormbringer not up for the Volibear, so a dive would be really, really difficult. It is a Tahm Kench after all. That is one of the no-goes before diving. You never want to dive that champion unless it is a guaranteed lockdown before he can click that E button. And with his current health and with it regenning so quickly, I do not think they are going to want to try their luck. But now the wave's in a bit of a neutral spot, so it has actually opened up an opportunity. The Ystriel does have flash.
Looks like J4 is rotating up onto the Tom Kench, trying to make some magic happen here, trying to get the volley, the kill. Volley coming through with a grasp. Turok here,
Ooh.
and able to knock him out from the depths below with a great wall cataclysm.
Yeah.
Great outplay there. Nice job on the side of Flash Syndicates.
And I like the patience there from Not Important to hold the flag and drag. He walks on in, Winnie Richard managing to get that flash Q, so that was all the lockdown they needed. And eventually, they managed to get that kill with the Cataclysm, like you mentioned, Bubble. So they will also get the first turret. That is the full 5 plates being taken by this volley bear. We said it before, it needed a window to get fed in this early game. And with around a 1,000 gold lead in the top lane, I can surely tell you that it has done just that. So a really big power point here for the side of Flash Syndicate. Their bot lane also doing relatively well. Jhin playing that weak side perfectly, has now completed the static shift, so we'll be able to clear those waves out extra fast. And we might have also had a play in the bot side as Bento going in here.
Looks like Jin's trying to make some magic happen with
Oh,
a
big
stun
one.
coming through. And Ori able to pull him back with the ultimate there. Jhin being called out, coming down with the abilities from Syndra with her knockdown true damage slam. Good play though around the board, trying to control the lane, not trying to give any extra kills over to the side of Flash Syndicates. Would have been great if we could save Ashe, but there's never a perfect world where we can save everyone.
There's never a world where you save 80 carries from things like that. You breathe on them, and they die. It's just the way of the world. Both of them go down in that exchange. But a little bit of an overzealous play, I have to think, from the Flash Syndicate. There are no objectives on the board. There is nothing really to gain in terms of neutrals on the map. It felt like kind of a bloodthirsty play. And at the end of all of it, they commit, flashes. They commit, cleanses, ignites, all of these summoner spells, plus 3 ultimates. Only getting 1 kill and really not much to show for it at the end of the day. Now we are hitting the 14-minute mark, so Herald is available, and maybe so is Ashe.
J4 being called out through the flag and drag onto the Ashe Cataclysm coming down, able to set up some great play onto Syndra as well. Looks like he's still trying to engage in, trying to get the Syndra kill off before he's taken down. Looks like he's able to get out potentially. Looks like he's trying to get away from the Maokai. Jhin and the side of Flash Syndicates trying to go in. Looks like they're going to call out the Maokai, get the kill down with the Volley Bear. Curtains being open. Looks like they're taking some shots, trying to get him down. Looks like we're going to walk away scot-free with only 1 kill there.
God, I would hate to be a mage in Demacia with how relentless this Jarvan is to the chase. It does not matter if Not Important is up for grabs. It does not matter if his health bar is low. And speaking of low health bars, Terry is very low as an engage comes in from the mid lane.
Looks like Volley's trying to make some magic happen.
Big shockwave.
Looks like he's trying to get onto Syndra, get that kill through. Looks like he's summoning down below, gets the kill onto the Syndra. Looks like they're still engaging onto the Tom Kench, trying to make some more magic happen. Really wanting to get through that thick skin that he's building up passively, and does get that kill through for a double kill for Volley Bear.
Yeah, double kill for Flash Syndicate. They managed to take down so many members in that exchange. They balloon the gold lead even further. And to top it all off, they're going to try and take down this mid turret, but here we got an engage.
Looks like the Bard is trying to save some time here, getting the Ori out,
Oh.
barely, but gets hit by a turret shot. It's super unfortunate, but going over to the side of the unfortunate and giving Maokai a kill. Maokai was a little behind, so it's nice to see him get a little bit of gold coming back in that pocket for some bad trades early on.
It really feels like Lewis in particular kind of realizes how behind he is, at least relative to Not Important. I mean, a 3-1 and 4 Jarvan has the Eclipse complete, almost has that second item complete as well. Going in for the redemption, so a lot of healing and a lot of faith coming through from this Ashe and this Syndra. It really feels like those are the 2 carry picks that this entire Abandoned Lewis squad is built around. But so far, neither of those picks really having the greatest of games. Syndra obviously only 1-1, but the Ashe really struggling in a lot of these exchanges. They're really able to burn a lot of the summoners from the Ashe, thereby creating her as an immobile target, very ripe for the taking by Flash Syndicate. So It's a tough game going forward. The Herald is still up, but the Dragon also following in about 40 seconds here. So I wonder what priority is going to look like in terms of both of these squads. Maybe we can look for a trade, because at this point, it feels so difficult for Abandoned Lewis to actually go for a fight here, because we've seen what team fights look like and it never goes their way. They've got to try and find other avenues to, you know, kind of shrink this gold lead that has been ballooning in the last few minutes.
Yeah, definitely going to be a tough call across the board. I think if they can trade some objective here, not going to be a bad call. You know, Abandoned Lewis does have one dragon already. If they could potentially make some magic happen, stack up dragons, and get some extra stats across the board. Looks like J4 is going into the Maokai. Maokai coming through with his grass ultimate. Looking like they're going to get out with Melio kickback of his fireball. Looks like Syndra's just out of position. Coming in, J4 is trying to lock her down, but looks like she's going to be safe for now. TP coming in from the Tahm Kench from the top lane, trying to engage into a team fight. Curtains coming out. Looks like they're trying to get the kill onto the Ashe. Not going to be successful yet. Looks like they're going to try and just burn through the extra bullets, trying to call out this Drake as they can. Volibear is still in the top lane pushing, so we've got to keep some eyes out. Looks like we're not going to contest this dragon at the moment, but keeping an eye, trying to see what magic they can make to get this early objective.
I mean, Flash Syndicate there, going back in toward the pit. The Volibear TP was on cooldown, but now it is up again. And now the Syndra is maybe locked down.
And looks like they're going in. Syndra's just barely coming through. Eat from Tahm Kench coming out to save her, get her pushed back into the tower.
And they managed to save the Syndra, but at what cost? Look at the top lane. Winnie Richard manages to get that tower. The Volibear now has TP. They're going to pivot on down toward the bot lane. EOD are in no position to fight. All the wards have been cleared. All of the numbers favor Flash Syndicate. They do have the Blast Cone over, so if Lewis wants to go for a play, he can do so, but it's a one-way trip.
Looks like Maokai's coming through, getting to steal the objective there, but trades his life in return. Great shutdown to get the dragon, you know, some extra tanky stats coming through from the dragon there for them on the side of Abandoned Lewis. So it's going to potentially help them if they can see that coming through later on. Looks like the side of Flash Syndicates really wants to make some magic happen on this Tower 1. Looks like they're wanting to go in. Dragon flag going into Syndra. She's able to knock him back, get the kill out. And looks like they only trade one death for that turret. Looks like they're still trying to engage. Volley's wanting to fight, trying to go into the Tahm Kench, trying to shut the Tahm Kench just onto the Syndicate. And looks like the static ship was able to come through on from the Jhin, knock out some awesome damage. Looks like Tahm Kench is going to get through. Looks like, again, just a trade for Ashe and Syndra, but they're looking like they're going to get a tier 2 as well out of this. Looks like they may go for another engage if they wait around for a few minutes. Looks like we may not, but that was a great trade on the side of Flash Syndicates there.
Flash Syndicate a little bit too aggressive, as not important. It did go down there, but the results were worth it. They get 2 turrets in the mid lane. They open up the map significantly in their favor. The Herald still untaken. I'm really surprised that this neutral was not even considered by Flash Syndicate, given how hard they have been trying to pressure a lot of these lanes. But they've got 5 grubs. They've got the Volibear. Really, what more do you need at that point in the game? So far, though, the Wombo combo, kind of a hit or miss thing. We talked about the importance of this Jarvan Orianna ultimate combo kind of landing on toward a lot of these backline members, being the Syndra and the Ashe, but now it kind of feels like sometimes it works, other times it doesn't, and when it doesn't work, it resulted in not important death. And speaking of death, there might be some here on the top side.
Looks like Grasp from Maokai's coming through, trying to get some kills there. Looks like he's going to get the stun out. Ashe trying to use her volley to slow him down. Curtains are open. Jin's trying to make a play onto, but nothing to land through. Just a shot onto Murdox and a shot or two onto Lewis. Nothing to scare them. Looks like the Flash Syndicates is trying to set up for Baron. They have some good vision around it, some control. Looks like they're going to be able to burn through this potentially if it goes uncontested by Lewis's team. Let's see if they're going to be able to pull it through. Looks like they are keeping a turn onto the Tahm Kench. Looks like they're going to come through. Ashe arrow coming from the side. Looks like they're trying to engage through. She's being called out by the J4. J4 being called in with Cataclysm. Lewis knocking him out with the kill. Looks like they're still engaging onto the Volibear, trying to land those Ashe arrows. Here we go. You know, Volibear's just going to be running in. That Syndra flash coming in kind of late. Let's see if she's going to be able to help clean up. A kill going over to should be Syndra or Ashe. Sorry about that. But nonetheless, looks like it was a great turnaround there. They really were able to outplay it. Jin's flash being burned there. Syndra's going to want to run him down. She's got some potential to get him if she can.
Ooh.
Just barely missing. That cleanse coming out. Jin definitely being worried. Looks like Glean was just worried that if he gets called out, there wasn't going to be potential to save him, with Bard being a fair bit away from that.
It's a very extended trade, but again, it just feels like Flash Syndicate are too quick on the trigger. I think if they waited just a few more seconds for the waves to crash to really threaten from the Orianna on that side lane, they could have potentially tried to make EOD respond. They could have teleported that Orianna up toward the top lane. Orianna doesn't teleport, period, and now we've got another fight in the mid lane.
J4 trying to lock down the Melio. Looks like there's going to be multiple trades across the board. J4 taking down the Melio, and Bard and Jin able to take down the Ashe with the help of Orianna. Looks like they're going to be setting up for this Baron again. Let's see if they're going to go in for it. They do still have the jungle and Syndra up on the side of Abandoned Lewis. Could potentially make an outplay, steal it again, just like they did on the earlier Drake.
But I mean, this time it's so much more difficult, right? You are facing an open pit. You cannot just flash over the wall. And all of the members of Flash Syndicate are here this time around in order to keep you away from that objective. So the Maokai not going to try his luck a second time. It is just going to be a Baron at 22.5 minutes given over to the Flash Syndicate. They will reset a Dragon coming up in about 40 seconds, so this could be their opportunity to stop that Dragon stacking that Abandoned Lewis have started. And I have to think, if this Dragon goes the way of Flash Syndicate, then the win con, the angles, the windows, period, for Abandoned Lewis really have begun to close, because they won't really be able to reliably keep this game going for another 10 minutes after this is taken.
Yeah, definitely looking like we may have to start slowing the pace down if we can find some ways to lock down some of these extra bounties across the board, especially on the Jin and Orianna, may give them an opportunity to help turtle their way back in to, finding a win com to win. Looks like Volibear is engaging through the Tahm Kench, trying to chase him down. Looks like he's not going to be successful. Looks like we're going to get another potential engage from the J4. J4, very excited, has the Cataclysm up. Looks like he's not setting in for it yet. Looks like they are setting up for a Dragon here, trying to watch through the backside of the Dragon Pit. Looks like they're not trying to contest right away, dragging it out into the river, trying to get some access to it. That Bard is watchfully watching, making sure no one's going to cross his line of sight. They are going to secure that Cloud Dragon, which is their first one on the side of Flash Syndicates.
Yeah, well done there by Flash Syndicate. They were a little bit nervous, I think, about the next one being stolen away, so they dragged out the timer just a little bit. It's not contested at the end of the day, though. But I'm looking at this top lane. I mean, look at this Volibear, level 15 to level 13. This is one hungry bear, and he is looking to chomp on some champs. I like this. They're going for a 4-1. Winnie Richard does have teleport and Stormbringer available, so should he need to get aggressive, should he need to make his way toward the mid lane, he has easy access to do so. But this is kind of the difficult part of playing these 4-1 lanes, is syncing up the waves. You can see there is a wave in the top lane, but there is not a wave in the mid lane now. It is just crashing. So this leads a bit of an easy task, I would say, for Abandoned Lewis. They can kind of ping pong the waves, hold them at bay. If they choose to go for an engage, though, I feel like it is going to be a disaster. So they just have to focus on, like you said, Bubble, clearing out these waves, stalling out this game, trying to keep that win con alive and making sure that they don't get engaged on. But the curtain is here and it is calling.
Didn't really want to call out this. Tahm Kench trying to knock some of that fixed Jin out. Volley is trying to shove in that top lane. They're really trying to stop both lanes from being taken. That mid tower turret there being taken. Looks like they're going on to the inhib, trying to shut down that inhib early. They are still fighting. J4 is going in, Cataclysm coming out. They are trying to shut down the Syndra. Not successful. Getting that extra cleanse and heal coming through. Looks like Tahm Kench is fighting for his life. Not going to be successful yet. That Bard ultimate coming through, but not able to land any kind of magic there. Tahm Kench is really trying to take some damage.
Ooh,
unfortunately, that he's going to get that to come firing off him to kill their Syndra, but also falling down on from the Volibear. Volibear at this point is just a walking wall that is not going to die for you.
I mean, the Baron buff has been removed from the members of Flash Syndicate, but they are 4 members strong against 2. None of these remaining members on Abandoned Lewis really deal that much damage. The Nexus is exposed. EOD are exposed. I think they're going to take in your Bubble.
Yeah, Lewis trying to make some magic happen, but unfortunately that Nexus was already long gone before he was on that field trying to make any magic.
And really a clean win coming out there from the Flash Syndicates. It felt like they had a few hiccups here and there, namely not important was really a wild chop. This was the definition of an X factor. Sometimes he would go in, it would be beautiful, especially toward, that red buff fight. He flashes over the red buff pit and kind of, buys space for his team to extend that fight forward. He keeps on going in, he keeps on finding picks with the flag and drag. Other times, though, he would go into 4. The shockwave would not be primed and ready for him. He would end up dying, and he would end up looking silly. So it really feels like it was an inconsistent engage from Flash Syndicate. But what was landing, what was working, was enough to get them the win. And one more repeat of that, and they should be able to close this series out in what I would consider a pretty clean fashion.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was a tough match across the board. Watching that top lane kind of spiral out of control on the side of Abandoned Lewis.
Yeah.
Volibear at the end there was already up 2 full items on top of that Tom Kench. Really hard when you're already spiraling to start to slow down someone that is just fed, they are hungry, and they are tearing you apart. Definitely was a tough match across the board, but I think they can still find some magic to maybe pull it back and pull out a 2-1 win.
For sure. I think there's certainly a chance for Abandoned Lewis to rally up to get back in the saddle and for them to take a game to win. But and yeah, I mean, look at this gold graph, basically completely favoring the side of Flash Syndicate. You can see a little bit of a divot at around 9 minutes, but really that just led them to rally up again, go for it. But I do really want to highlight, we talk a lot about how proactive the top side was. That Volibear, like you mentioned, Bubble, really tearing up the Tom Kench lane and matchup. The Jarvan, very proactive around that top side as well. But I want to give credit where credit is due over to Lien and Bento. That Bard was finding a lot of picks, was finding a lot of opportunities to roam. We questioned the validity of roaming in a meta that has kind of punished it now, and he seemed to adapt to it really well. And weak siding the Jhin was a good choice, and he took that in a stride. It really felt like there was no point where this Ashe or Emilio were able to punish the 1v2 lane, and he got out second most damage on the team. So really big credit toward the bot side of the map, even though the top side certainly were more flashy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that Bard really kind of showed us what we were questioning in full count for him. Really coming through with some of those big ultimates really helped shut down that early kill onto the Melio and the Maokai when J4 was rotating in to get that bot lane set up. I think that was a crucial pivotal point where they determined that they were taking control of that match.
For sure. And I think they're going to have to determine how to take control of game number 2 if they want this to be a clean swept series. But they're going to have to find a different way to do it. As for those of you who are not aware or just joining us, this is a fearless draft, meaning that the champions picked by their respective teams will not be available. However, they will be available to the other team. So if by chance, Terry wants to go on the Syndra in game 2, he has that opportunity. But if the Jarvan wants to play it again by not important, it is not available, much to the joy of Abandoned Lewis, I would imagine. But we are going to take a small little break while we wait for the teams to rally up to discuss what they're going to do in game number 2. And we will see you all on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, to game number 2 between Abandon, Lewis, and Flash Syndicate. If you are just now joining us, if you weren't present for game number 1, then let me tell you, Flash Syndicate made that game go in a flash. They had an absolute dominant performance from start to finish. It felt like they were in control, and they're looking to close us out in a 2-0 competitive sweep. Abandon Lewis, though, a 1-0 team, not without their strengths as well, hoping to take us to game number 3, to that all-decisive, important series point. And now we're firing through on the draft. Some the same, some different. Syndra being banned on the blue side this time around. And we do also have a bit of a development in terms of side select. It is going to be Abandon Lewis on the blue side, or actually, no, it's the same sides, I recall. But the bans are finished. Jarvan and the Syndra are completely new, and I'm wondering if we're going to see a similar strat this time where they just first pick a strong mid laner. LeBlanc is still on board. I still really want to see this champion picked, but instead it's looking like they're going to gear up toward that bot lane. Aphelios going to be the answer. Now, what do Flash Syndicate want to do to respond to this? It is worth noting they do have the Ashe up and available. They could pick that one if they want to. Aphelios, without that sniper, really is prone to getting poked down. So I think that there is certainly an avenue where they can pick some long range and really make him regret his life choices in silence, because Aphelios can't talk. But like we were talking about, the range is going to come up at the end of the day. Ziggs going to be the lock in here. A good flex pick, but we've seen it more toward that bot side of the map. Now, I would imagine they're probably going to try and pair this up with a jungler. Skarner is still taken off the table, but another strong jungle pick could be that Udyr. Still able to full clear, still just as strong as it was in 14-18. Or they could go for a more aggressive option like the Xin, like the Viego. I like these hovers coming up from Not Important. We saw how proactive he was in game number 1. They're hoping to get that repeatability here in game number 2.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they're wanting that early aggression comp again. I'm not opposed to it. Flash Syndicates made it work. They are very comfortable in dictating how fast that pace was going to be set by themselves.
Mhm.
Maybe kind of their winning comp and decision making that's going to help them through this set today to kind of get through. The Lulu hover,
I
definitely
like
a
it.
good strong pick. She's right now really top in that meta. She's going to have great disengage. Her polymorph is just one of those slept on abilities that's going to be able to knock out a lot of these key players that may be able to shut her down or even get onto her Aphelios as well.
I feel like people underestimate the power of Xin Zhao Lulu as a combo. This is a very deadly duo that you do not want to mess with. And I would imagine we're probably going to round things out in the bot lane here. Rel is still available if they want to go for a little bit of engage. I feel like Rel was the one that kind of survived the purge of a lot of engage supports. But rather, they're actually going to go for a bit of an unorthodox choice here in the Amumu. Haven't seen that in the support role for a long time. But it fulfills the niche that we were talking about with the Rel. It has engage, it has pick potential. It's very easy for Viego to get resets off of champions like Amumu because they're just locked down for so long. And I think those resets are going to be key here for the Flash Syndicate. If they can get those Heartbreaker stacks and those resets, they really set themselves up to never lose a team fight.
Yeah, Bandage Toss is just one of those abilities that is so
Yeah.
underappreciated for the fact you have two charges. That's a great engage tool, and then another engage tool once they're trying to escape. You're going to be able to lock them down, especially if it does go into that route of support. They could look to maybe move this Viego into mid lane. We have seen some of that. It's not as prominent right now, but we'll have to see if they do keep it in that jungle role. We think it will.
And a lot of bands being targeted up toward that top lane. A bit of a missing ban, mystery ban up on the Flash Syndicates, but I would imagine it goes up toward that top lane. If we could get kind of confirmation as to what that ban was, we will let you know. But for the time being, the set banned away. The Echo soon to follow. The Orianna was the ban. We're just now seeing it on the overlay. So mid laners being targeted here by Flash Syndicate. I like that Orianna ban, actually. There are a lot of ball delivery systems in the Xin Zhao and more to come potentially, as the top laner has not yet been revealed. And that top laner is not going to be the Darius at the end of the day. So yeah, both solo lanes, a mystery for both squads. I would imagine we're probably going to be seeing the mid laner picked up here first. Again, LeBlanc is still open. I think if you want to go for something a little bit crazier, you can go for the Yone. Aurora is still also up and available. I'm surprised we haven't seen that one picked up. Basically, any of these Shadow Flame Storm Surge abusers really can make a splash on toward the Rift. And I think for Flash Syndicate in particular, really complement the style of chaos that they like to imbue on their games. And there is going to be the Aurora lock-in. I really like this. It's really good with the ultimate as well, just trapping all of the members of EOD in this box. It makes it so easy for that to be comboed up with the Curse of the Sad Mummy and the Super Mega Death, or not the Super Mega Death Rocket, but rather the Super Mega Inferno Bomb. There we go, nailed it. All of these AoE abilities being layered onto each other makes it so difficult for even the Aphelios, who's being protected by heavily here on this comp, to live all of that burst.
Yeah, I think Aurora right now is a sleeper pick. People are not picking her just due to, they adjusted the range that she is able to jump and how much she can get around the map in her invis state. I don't think she's a pick, though, that is any less utilized and can offer a great amount of engaged tools by forcing them to have to really ward that across the river, even in control wards, to give you good vision and not lose. Okay.
Lissandra lock, and I think we are seeing a Nico top lane here, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people were talking about how ranged top laners were the scum of the earth pre 14-19. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They never left. Now I'm really curious to see what exactly Flash Syndicate are going to pick in response to that. I think maybe Camille could be a good option. It sets you up for a really nice 4-1 comp. Or they could go for a more aggressive route. The Yone being hovered here. This really feels like a big feast or famine champion. I've seen this champ, not succeed before. It get behind in early lane phase before. And it does not look pretty after that lane phase, as it finds it's really difficult for it to find jobs to do once the game kind of breaks open into a more team fight oriented state. But it's going to be locked in here, so a lot of attention, I would imagine, being paired up toward this top lane. There is also the slight possibility that this is actually an Aurora top and a Yone mid, which I think would be honestly more favorable for the side of Flash Syndicate. We'll have to wait and see what those picks are going to be. But for the most part, I think we have very cohesive drafts here coming into game two, Bubble.
Yeah, I think they took a new strategy. They kind of stepped back. They were like, what did they not do well? They try to play some tankier picks. It looked like they were trying to just go more meta. Let's go backwards. Let's play some comfort. Our comfort picks are still going to be priority across the board and give them some utilization to kind of charge in. They know their stats, they know where they can play. So I really think the Xin Zhao will be crucial on trying to get some better lockdowns across the board. But you have Lissandra. Lissandra is a beast.
Yeah.
Malignance is still stupid strong on her for the fact she's going to reset that ultimate and keep healing and freezing without the end of day.
And Lissandra, as well as Lulu, I would say, are also really good at punishing. Another aspect of how Flash Syndicate like to play. Like you mentioned, Bubble, their engage, right? We said Flash Syndicate. Some of the engages that they did, specifically that Jarvan, did not necessarily work out. It kind of blew up in their face, but never at any point were they able to punish those misengages. It felt like, despite dying, despite some members going down, despite some gold going over to EOD in those missed opportunities by Flash Syndicate, they still were able to press forward. They were still able to pressure the map. This time around, you've got the Lissandra ult, you've got the Lulu polymorph. There's so many abilities that can dissuade and engage coming out here from Flash Syndicate and allow you to kind of extend the fight and make it more toward your favor, especially with champions like Aphelios and Xin Zhao, who love extended trades, and as well as the zombies, right? Lissandra is also, I would say, a part of that. So I
Yep.
like this reaction coming out here from EOD. I certainly think that Abandoned Lewis have found an interesting avenue to punish, but a right one nonetheless.
Yeah, I think another huge pickup on the Lulu was, she's gonna be able to go Shurelya's, but she also is gonna be able to abuse Ardent Sensor and Staff of Flowing Water.
Yep.
Those are two slept on items. She's got a great team that's gonna want to be buffed, not only for attack damage, but the spell casting. She's got two great spellcasters on her team that are going to love the second she's around.
For sure. And I think that the big thing is Lulu, we want her to roam around in a lot of these strong side lanes, but I almost feel like she has an obligation to stay down in the bot lane here. Aphelios Lulu is a well-known combination. I think Viper and Mako would tell you the exact same thing when they won in 2021. This is still a strong combo. Lulu, I would say, is the best support in 14-19. I really don't think there's any bad matchup for Lulu at this point. It will always be useful. It's good with a lot of the meta AD carries. And while I don't necessarily think Aphelios is by any means an S tier champion in 14-19, it still has the range, it still has the utility, it still has the crit abuse, right? It's still able to use those crit items. So realistically, Lulu is still good with it. It is still able to run on forward. And with a ton of engage like Nico, like Lissandra, like Xin Zhao, getting a big ultimate off on Lulu on one of those engagers could be absolutely titanic for Flash Syndicate. It can completely throw their game plan forward. So I'm thinking, once we get into those team fights, which I think will be where a lot of the blood is spilled, it's really a matter of who is engaging first. While I do think that Abandon Lewis have better disengage, I do think Flash Syndicate have better layering of ultimates. Those R buttons are going to be really key when we're looking at this comp. And I think until they hit those level 6s, they have every right to just want to back off. They've got plenty of damage, pre-level 6, but it's more reliable once you hit those ultimates, right? You are definitely going to win those fights once you have Curse of the Sad Mummy and once you have the Aurora ultimate. So I want to see a little bit of patience coming out here from the Flash Syndicate if they're hoping to take game number 2. Meanwhile, I think Abandon Lewis have the opportunity to maybe put their foot on the gas with this Xin Zhao and really take over this early game.
Yeah, another key factor on the side of Flash Syndicates is the Ziggs. The Ziggs is going to be a power farming machine, but has that global ultimate that can help contest objectives without sacrificing the team if they're not around. So it's going
Yeah,
to be a great tool to kind of engage without having to engage even. So I definitely
yeah.
think it's setting them up for a better positioning strategy across the board if they want to take a Drake, get vision on grubs, things like that. I mean, that's going to really allow them to kind of keep contesting different factors and places on the map without sacrificing where they already were planning.
For sure. And I think another thing that's going to help Ziggs contest a lot of those neutrals is the fact that Ziggs loves to take teleport, right? This is one of those rare instances where he has the ability to, utilize that summoner spell and get around the map and really turn a lot of these potential, 4v4 grub skirmishes into a 5v4. That could be really useful later down the line. I can totally see Flash Syndicate getting a huge lead through that. But speaking of teleport, we're going to channel our teleport into a break real quick while we wait to get into game number 2. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back after a small little break. We'll see you on the other side. And just like that, we've teleported back onto the Rift for Game 2 of Flash Syndicate and Abandon Lewis. Flash Syndicate looking to close this series out with a decisive 2-0 victory and put themselves 2-0 in series score here on the Risen Dominate League. And already they're looking to get for some cheeky level 1 tactics here, Bubble.
Yeah, I definitely like both teams trying to play it smart. That early vision control gonna deter them from being over aggressive here. I don't blame them. It's a good idea, but fell a little short today.
And it is also worth noting that the experience changes on killing wards means that Winnie Richard will not get level 2 first. So no advantage going to be given over to the Yone just yet. You do not get off that easy. And his lane matchup is actually going to be the Lissandra. So we thought it was going to be potentially a Nico top lane. Well, it is actually Lissandra on the top side of the map. Interested to see how this matchup goes. I certainly think that, with that lethal tempo, with those extended traits really being good for a champion like Yone, it could be difficult for the side of the Lissandra, as Terry is already forced to flash, but the Xin Zhao delaying its clear by a few seconds because they wanted to try and stop the ward.
Yeah, I don't think that's a hateful strat. I mean, he's just now going to be pushing back probably an extra 15 seconds, I would roughly say, compared to what his normal clear would have been. So that is a little disappointing onto the side of EOD, but not the end of the world yet.
And not having that flash also means that Lewis is going to be looking at that Aurora and thinking, cooked deer sounds absolutely amazing on the menu tonight. But until then, it is looking like the Aurora, Terry playing it smartly, just going to get shoved in toward the turret. And this is an interesting path from the Xin Zhao. He goes from the Raptors straight toward the Wolves. Is probably going to be doing the red and then the Gromp. I'm interested to see where he ends up after this, as we got a lot of trading in the top side. Winnie Richard has that Q3.
Looks like Yone's trying to go in, flashes forward, gets the kill onto the Lissandra, getting that early kill onto her, shoving her back into base for an early death here in game 2.
And I mean, Winnie Richard has to shove this wave in. Lewis is on the top side of the map with that ghost available. The Yone does not have the flash up, but the Xin is just going to pivot on over toward those Grumps. So no punish going to come forward from EOD at the end of the day. It is still a solo bolo on the top side of the map. Really good start here for Flash Syndicate. Really good start here for the Yone as well, as a flashless Lissandra, that's a tongue twister, is going to mean a lot easier trading for this Yone going forward.
Yeah, I think Yone is just going to have a stronger early game than what the Lissandra is going to be able to present. I think until she's probably a level 6, she's not going to be able to offer as great of a trade as she could. Looks like the bot lane is trying to go in. Looks like Bento was trying to make a play onto the Lulu. Kind of gets overextended. Looks like they're really pushing back the Helios. The Ignite coming through. Looks like he's trying to set up a good play. Being called down. Looks like he's getting low.
Lewis!
Lewis coming in, finishing off the kill for Jote. Looks like they're trying to get that second kill onto Bento. Bento being able to flash out. Graviton Cannon is on the Viego. They could have looked to maybe place a little deeper, but backing off to not sacrifice any of their own lives here today.
And you may abandon Lewis, but Lewis will never abandon you. Swoops in there like Superman, gets a quick little kill, gives it over to Jote, so that Aphelios on the board here in game number 2. Really good start for EOD for the time being. However, it was a lot of summoners exchanged on that trade. This Aphelios definitely prone to getting punished by this Viego once it makes its way down toward the bot lane. But for the time being, not important, is on the top side of the map. So no real play, no real threat coming from either jungler at this point.
Looks like Yone's really keeping Yastal kind of pushed under the turret. I think he's having a difficult time trying to find some trading area. I think this Yone just has the perfect angles to keep them pushed underneath the turret, with also the ability to get shielding from his swords, keeping him able to keep engaging longer than Lissandra. Lissandra's not going to get any type of shielding, any extra health procs, just for doing good trades, unfortunately.
And the junglers going to spot each other on those wolves. There's the camp. but it is not going to lead to any action at the end of the day. But I like what you said there about the top lane, but I really think the big thing that, is making the difference is the priority that it is creating. Winnie Richard is really shoving this Lissandra under the tower, and now
Bento
Bento
being
might
called
be...
out here. Looks like Bento's going to be called out just poorly out of position, trying to ward his own area. Unfortunately, getting killed out from Jotei. Jotei being able to engage there. Lulu just great to follow up and make sure that they secure that kill without sacrificing much of their own health.
Good use of the Gravitum there. They tried and used that to get a pick, and they succeeded at the end of the day. So it's 2 kills going over to the Aphelios at the current moment now. Red-white activated for Aphelios as well. So that is a gun combination that is infamous in the League of Legends community. Red-white don't ever fight. And despite the priority being heavily in favor of this Yone, it is actually going to be the Grubs given over to Lewis and EOD. So they are going to take the first spawn. I really thought with how oppressive this Yone was that they would be able to utilize that priority on the top side. And now they're going for a play on bot lane.
Looks like the Electrocute coming in from Aurora's ultimate coming through. Looks like they're able to set up on the Aphelios as well, getting the double kill on Aphelios. And Lulu setting up for the Drake here to clear it out. Aurora just able to really dive in there with her ultimate, keep them in the other world and not give them any kind of priority to escape. Great call out on Terry.
Great roam from Terry, like you said, and it does net them a double kill and now a dragon. But I think good read here coming out from Lewis in particular, recognizes that that dragon is not long for the world, so going to get a few camps on the top side of the map. However, Winnie Richard, very strong in this game, so they aren't going to be able to look for any kind of a dive on toward that Yone. It's just going to be a trade of objectives, a trade of kill, a little bit of a trade of gold, and it is very even at this point in the game. We're 7.5 minutes in, very, very close. It's about a half a gold lead here in favor of Flash Syndicate, and a lot of that gold is because of this top side. We talked about the importance of this Yone, of this Aurora, of this Viego getting fed early on and being able to snowball that later on once they get those ultimates. Now, I really think is their time to pull the trigger with those R keys unlocked. Really, the only one that they don't have is that Curse of the Sad Mummy for the time being.
Yeah, this Ziggs is really trying to make some work out for the Ophelia, so not trying to give up much of the plating, really wanting to keep that turret. They were able to abuse the last game, getting that early turret in the bot lane, going through all the plates. That's a ton of extra gold onto the side of financial. Flash Syndicates, my goodness. That's just hopefully something they can utilize again. It was a great tool. It gave them a great lead into the bot lane. Not something they have currently. Looks like Yone is trading with the Lissandra. Looks like they're trying to shove waves. Lissandra's trying to freeze and keep a push going in, but Yone is being able to successfully stop her from setting up anything.
Having that frozen too makes it a lot more difficult, I think, for Winnie Richard to actually go for some of these trades, because as soon as he goes in for a kill, he's sacrificing a decent part of his health, and maybe if the extended trade is close enough, Lissandra has the ability to go on and turn that one, but there is another play happening on the bot side of the map. The wave is about to crash. The Aurora and the Viego are here. Jotei might not be long for this world.
Otherworld coming through, Electrocute coming through, Lulu's just being called out, Bandage Wrap landing. Nico is trying to sneak in, but has been sighted out. She did land the ultimate. She's trying to get the kill onto Ziggs. Or Viego there.
So low.
Apologizing that. Super close, but not successful today. Does look like Lewis is trying to go back in, try and land some magic damage across the boards, but can't set up anything for his team here. Backing out, just clearing.
Lewis is punching air after that play. A reset on the Heartbreaker gets not important away from the fight. Aurora manages to go invisible. Leon flashes over the wall. And the Xin Zhao is left empty-handed after all of that. It is a successful heist of a dive there in the bot lane. But 9.5 minutes, I just now noticed this bubble. Lewis has not reset.
Yeah, definitely an interesting strat. I'm
He's
not sure what he's trying to set up for.
He's got 2740 in the gold department. And, man, I am very curious about that. Please tell me that once he takes this red, he actually goes for a reset. Please.
I would certainly hope so. I think he may just be saving up for a nice vacation somewhere, but I don't think he's going to get anything too luxurious here today.
It certainly will help him, though, as I don't know if it'll help him enough, as that Kraken Slayer has been completed by Not Important. Kraken, a bit of a niche buy nowadays, was heavily nerfed and is now kind of in the same realm as something like a Mage Ice. You really only kind of buy it when you have the extra gold in order to spend it. This Viego certainly is accelerated in this game, so certainly has the ability to go for that greedy purchase, but it does have some drawbacks later on in the game. If this Viego cannot maintain that lead that it has built so far, 10 minutes into the game, it will be a very difficult time for him, as a solo kill on the top side of the map. Winnie Richard still going at it on this Yone.
Yeah, I think winning Richard is just going to be a pivotal point here. The Zin's out is going in. Electrocute coming from the
Good
Aurora.
stun.
They are still going. Looks like they're trying to set him down. Both ultimates coming through. Lots of ults, lots of damage. All coming in. TP from the Lissandra coming in, trying to clean up.
Ooh.
Looks like a kill onto the Viego. Now shut down on Yone. Trying to get to the Aurora. Trying to get that final kill and get the shutdown. Looks like she's going to be able to escape. Hopping over with a pot plant. But able to secure the grubs away. Getting the grub advantage here. Gonna get the 4 grubs so they can use one of the grublings per player when they are hitting towers here.
Super well played there by Lewis. Tanks up so much damage on the Xin Zhao, does not die, and manages to shut down a decent amount of the win cons that were built up here by Flash Syndicate. That is the first death of the Yone, the first death of the Viego. These trains have been stopped, the engines have been halted, and now it really feels like this could be a timer for Abandoned Lewis to really go forward. A dragon is spawning. It is up right now. They could look for a fight here.
Unfortunately, the Ophelia Assault coming and missing. Not going to be able to land. Bandage Wrap was able there. Cry of the Mummy coming through, trying to land extra damage. Just looks like they're able to get the kill onto Ophelios here for poor Jote. But looks like they are trying to get a plate here. May be able to get it. Lulu is trying to contest and keep them away from it. Looks like they are rotating up to the dragon. Looks like Not Important and Bento are trying to secure it. You do have Lewis going on the backside, trying to clean up. Misses, unfortunately. Looks like he's going to get called out here for another death timer, unfortunately.
Bit of a greedy play there from Lewis. You are strong, but you don't have the ghost. You do have the crescent guard. But all of this was really hindering on you being able to get that smite off. And realistically, it's only a second dragon, right? You are not really dealing with a soul point at this part of the game. This is exactly what we saw in game number 1 from Lewis. He went over the wall, managed to actually get the steal that time around, but this time fails. And now the Xin Zhao, who was, looking to be the big carry, Lewis, the namesake kind of this team, was looking to take that team on his back. But that seems to have been halted. Another kill over to the Viego. The Herald going to spawn in about 40 seconds here, so we got to trade on the top side.
Really good engage from the Yone coming through with the Wind Sweeper, but not unfortunately going to get anything for it. Was in the other world state where he is away from his body, kind of projected, but just a great callback on him. Great job pushing Nico back, not giving her any type of ability to feel comfortable up in that top side, even though they switched from mid to top.
Sure.
Looks like they are trying to keep Jote and Murvadox kind of pushed back here. They're trying to not let them get any lane presence in the bot lane. So we're definitely going to be watching that. It looks like we may see some good callouts here if they can keep up this pushing and shoving match they've got going back and forth. Does look like they are.
The top side. Also seeing a decent amount of action here. Lewis has started up the Herald. I mean, the priority does not favor the side of Flash Syndicate, but they might have found a pick. They found the Nico. But again, you gotta pay attention to those R keys. They're available for all 6 members on the top side of the map. That Pop Blossom and that Frozen Tomb really could spell death. So I like what Not Important is doing here. He's not pushing his luck. He's taking it slowly. He's looking to just get resources where he can. And once the priority favors him, he's going to call up toward his lanes to rotate on down. And it's going to be up to Lewis to try and stop that. You can see he wants blood at this point.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they're trying to set up for this Rift Herald. Not sure how they're going to be able to successfully clear it. Looks like Lewis is trying to make some magic happen, trying to secure it. Hopefully going to make a good play and Elaine gain some priority across the field to help set up, EOD to make more plays. I think that's the one downside. Right now, they're not able to make a team fight that is a winning, successful trade. They've had one, but it's not a continual win factor for them. Looks like they just got continuous movement across the field, really out jungling even from the Viego, trying to keep that vision pressure across the field. Does look like they're finishing up Smite.
Ooh,
Looks like
Yashriel?
he's coming in. Otherworld just able to help finish out with the Electrocute coming in as well. You know, Viego probably not super needed in there, but was able to get it. That spot lane turret falling at 15 minutes, almost 16 minutes for the Ziggs. So not able to clear through all the plates like they did in the first match, but still a super early turret and a great turnaround for them.
And it provides so many more avenues for Not Important to play aggressive. You can see that him and Bento have just made their home on this bot side. Lewis is going to come home to this side of the jungle and find that all of his stuff, maybe minus the Krugs, are taken away. Maybe his bot lane will disappear as well. Not Important on a ward. Jote does have the flash, does have the cleanse.
Banner grab coming through onto the Lulu. Cry the Mummy coming through. Looks like they've got everything landing on Jote.
Oh, they got him.
Able to secure the kill. Lissandra going in, trying to set up the kill. Bomb coming through. Looks like Not Important has fallen here. They are trying to get onto the Aurora. Aurora is going to fall to the Xin Zhao as well. Looks like they're trying to finish up, try to get onto Bento, and get Lint out as well. Looks like they're going to go for a cheeky Rift knockup if they can land it. Is coming through. Looks like they're going to get the kill onto Bento as well, trying to finish it up. Trying to get Rift Herald to go in and do some damage, shoving in that last little bit that the bot turret health is. Looks like they may not be able to get that today.
Big reaction there from Lewis. Finds his way in toward the fight. Deals immense amounts of damage to Terry on this Aurora. Takes her down. The rest of the squad rallies behind the Xin Zhao. He goes for a little bit of a drive, and they manage to take down Bento. And all of this right before the dragon is spawning. It is 2 Drakes coming out here for Flash Syndicate. This could be the opportunity. We saw a similar thing in game number 1 here, where it was 2 dragons a piece, but it was halted by a by Flash Syndicate rather. So Bubble, this could be the opportunity for EOD to really reverse the stakes, for them to give them a no you kind of situation, as Lewis has found Bento, but he is plenty tanky.
Trying to go in onto Lewis. Lewis is going to get called out.
Pressing guard.
Intercept miss. Looks like they're landing onto Lewis. Gonna secure the kill here. Getting the reset. Going onto the Drake here. Going to help. Unfortunately, does go over to Bento. Not necessarily the player you want to secure that kill, but still, never a bad thing when you can get a player off the field.
Really, really, really good pick there coming out there from the Flash Syndicate, but kind of an overstep there from the side of Lewis. He was all alone, completely abandoned in that exchange. Did not have the Crescent Guard, did not have the Ghost, didn't have the tools to be able to run away, much less fight back, so he just gets picked off. The Dragon follows, and now it looks like the Lissandra is next.
Banner Draft did come through. Unfortunately, she went into her ultimate to heal, but Otherworld already tied her down, so they had everything set up to already secure the kill. Bomb just coming through to finish off that poor Lissandra, who's just trying to clean up and make some damage for her team. You know, definitely unfortunate, but, you know, she's trying to make some plays. I give her props. That's a tough thing when you're already behind. You're trying to help your team out. You're trying to stop them from backing, but just didn't, unfortunately, work in their favor today.
It also doesn't help that the Lissandra utilized that steel arm guard there, so that is an extra defensive tool that is no longer available for Yshtriel going forward. Obviously, I expect that will turn into a Zhonya's, you know, soon enough, but that requires gold, and gold that the Lissandra does not currently have, something that that champion has kind of been starving for all game. Like you mentioned, Bubble hasn't really been having the greatest of games so far, so getting to that second item going to take some time. And until then, it is going to be the Flash Syndicate looking for their next victim, looking to flash and dash the hopes of EOD away from taking a game in this series.
Yeah, looks like, you know, you've got some discrepancy gold-wise too in that bot lane between ADC versus APC. Definitely looks like Aphelios is trying to build towards that immortal reminder, potentially. You know, see the Executioner Blade coming through. Definitely going to be curious what they're trying to utilize through that. You know, can understand the resets, but may not be the next item I potentially would build. But, you know, we're here on the desk instead. So I give them all props for getting through and playing out. Looks like they are trying to shove into this tier 2, trying to keep Aphelios punished for trying to make anything happen. 2-level difference between Ziggs and Aphelios. That's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Especially versus an APC. That's a lot of extra magic damage coming through that's going to hurt them.
And it's such a fall from grace on the side of Jote. This Aphelios is doing so good in the early stages of the laning phase, but then constant ganks, constant beratement from Not Important and Terry. This Aurora constantly roaming down, using that ultimate, and them just getting both destroyed in the process. Really squandered that lead before it had the opportunity to bloom into a win condition. As Bento is getting engaged on, Lewis is not alone. Here comes the Lissandra.
First of the money coming through. Looks like they're engaging. Otherworld landing. So much damage across the field. Hard to call what's really happening as so many TPs are coming in. Lissandra's trying to make some extra damage.
Not important.
Go ahead, reset. Unfortunately, the Nico not able to land anyone, but a great disengage tool. Looks like Yone's going to finish off the Lulu here. Unfortunately, she's just out of position and too close to where they could still engage on that fight.
Yeah, Not Important getting a little too aggressive there, turning into the Lissandra, but do you know, my friend, that you are extra squishy when you are in that form. He gets taken down, but a return kill by Winnie Richard on to Murderbox, like we saw there, is going to somewhat net this fight in their advantage. And so far, they've got 2 grubs. They've got 3 dragons. The win condition is there for this squad. Really, it's just about waiting for those last 90 seconds, and it's going to have to be Abandoned Lewis wanting to go for these fights. They're going to want to contest this dragon, but with how strong all of the members from Flash Syndicate are, it almost feels like a surefire win for them. So it really is a heads you lose, tails you lose situation here for Abandoned Lewis. It's just a matter of how they're going to play it. They still have an opportunity to win out on some of these fights. Terry is showing in the top lane. Many members of EOD are in the top lane, and Lewis might just want to go and test out his luck in this fight.
Terry being called out here. Otherworld dropped, but not going to be able to get a kill on either side. Great engage from Lewis. Not going to be able to make any magic happen onto the Aurora. Did get procced by the electrocute, which did lower him a fair bit to kind of make him need to disengage. Looks like Lissandra's trying to stop them from engaging off on the tier 2 there. Great call of the Zonias to help save them. Do have to be careful. Ziggs is in the AP ability range to just blow that turret if they wanted.
This Ziggs is absolutely lethal right now. Leon is in such a good position on this pick. Has the 2 items of Black Fire Torch plus the Luden's Companion. Those 2 needlessly large rods as well, spelling that a death cap is near, and so is the Nico!
Nico coming in from the backside, getting the Storm Surge to proc on both of the Ziggs and Bento there. Looks like they're trying to make some more magic happen. Lissandra going. Lewis is on the Aurora in the back lane. Bento still being called out. They are still chasing down the Aurora. Going onto Yistral, and unfortunately going to secure the kill onto them. They are trying to find a outplay here. Gotta be careful as the team of Flash Syndicates are coming in. Looks like they're going to be able to call them out.
Oh, big!
Fall. Jote is falling as well. Looks like the Yone sweep is coming through. Otherworld landing as well. Murderbox is just stuck and going to fall to the Aurora there with the electrocute. They are going to be clearing out this 4th dragon to get soul point for them, which is going to be big. Soul here, I think, is going to be a determining factor just to shove over to the Baron and get some extra objective gold and kind of set up the finish here.
Yeah, and they're gonna finish, they're gonna flash, dash, and crash the hopes of Abandoned Lewis here in game number 2. It was a pretty here and there fight. It was looking like it could have been anyone's victory. Lewis was dealing a lot of damage, but he doesn't secure the kill onto Terry. The re-engage, the fate sealed from Winnie Richard really spells disaster for the side of Abandoned Lewis. They aren't able to respond. They go down. They pick off Murderbox as the last member, get the Dragon Soul. And realistically, with around a 10k gold lead now here, 24 minutes into the game, they're looking to take that clean sweep, Bubble.
Yeah, I have to really give props to this Nico, though. Best 13 has been trying to make some great plays around their ultimate. They've really made a great play with the Storm Surge, being able to proc it. They have the Rocket Belt Storm Surge, and they're trying to get to Zonias. They're trying to make some magic happen so they can engage, live, and re-engage. I think it's a great decision making, but it's going to be tough as they're starting to fall back. They're being pushed in. There's not going to be good Yisrael's trying to go in, does land the ultimate. They are going to engage onto the Zig, get the kill through. They are engaging. Unfortunately, Yisrael does fall to the Storm Surge over. Does look like they're kind of waiting out each other, trying to get a feel if there's one play they can make over another. Looks like they're going to back out, but could potentially re-engage in the mid side here. You know, all three members are kind of hinging around as Yone's trying to shove out that bot lane. Knows that he could take this trade against Lewis, but is being careful as they don't have great vision to see where other members are currently on the field.
You know it's bad when Lewis is giving up an objective and giving up a camp. This is something that he has been quite stalwartly not to do this series, even diving in 2 games in a row to try and get that dragon. But he recognizes Winnie Richard. This is a 4-1-2 with 3-item Yone that is eclipsing him by 3 levels, probably over 3 levels at this point in the game. So he's going to give that one up. I like the decision here from Flash Syndicate. What they're doing here is essentially pushing out the mid lane, trying to, divert attention away from this Yone split pushing in the bot lane. And if they commit, more than one member, if they commit more than just this Nico to trying to stop the Yone, that means a free Baron is open up here for Flash Syndicate. And Winnie Richard can teleport if he wants to. He's got the Fated Seal. He's got all the rounds in the chamber. And it's looking like that play might come to fruition here. You can see the rest of Flash Syndicate are moving up toward the top side, clearing out vision, establishing vision of their own. The Baron next on the menu, their next target, as Ystriel gonna take a lot of damage from this Yone, but this Yone might have been found, it might have been caught.
Yisrael's really trying to make a play, trying to play it smart. Yone's ultimate coming through is gonna flash the Zonias to save themselves, but unfortunately still fall before that. Yone does surrender his life. Does look like it didn't stop Flash Syndicates from securing that topside turret. Definitely wasn't worth necessarily losing a whole turret for just a single kill. That bandage wrap is landed. They are trying to make something happen here. Looks like they get the inhib, trying to play smart. They're going to fall back, maybe setting up for a Baron play here. It's going to be crucial to kind of potentially set themselves up for a finishing, sent card to kind of send it home.
Winnie Richard is up in about 20 seconds, has the teleport available. With that inhibitor being taken by Flash Syndicate, it's a lot of pressure being made on the top side of the map. But yeah, they don't even need the Yone. They're just going to start it without him. There are plenty of places he can teleport to, plenty of flank angles for this Yone to find. And all the members of Abandoned Lewis for one last hurrah. They want to go in. They want to try and find their win here.
Lulu's unfortunately just going to be called out. She's just out of position, going to fall to Terry here. Looks like they are fully engaged. Curse of the Mummy does land. Lint is going to land. Best 13 out. Looks like they're going to finish off the Jote as well. And just going to take Lewis. They aren't really focused on any objectives. They are just taking kills. They want to clear the field and just finish this game out here, it looks like. Yistel is running, trying to make some magic happen, but is going to unfortunately fall to the Ziggs, who just is going to burn away anyone in his field today.
Leon's gonna Oppenheimer the Lissandra, light him up like a Christmas tree, and it looks like the hopes of EOD trying to make this a 3-game series are going to get Oppenheimered with it. They're on the Nexus turrets. They're going to fall soon after, and Flash Syndicate will be a 2-0 team here in the Dominate League.
Yeah, unfortunately, looks like they are just going to be able to finish out. The inhib is going to fall here quickly. Trying to get that last call out onto Lulu. Lulu really trying to just save herself here. Don't blame them. Extra kills and gold are never bad, but not needed. They really just are going to finish without taking much extra, but that's an inhib and winning game 2.
A clean game, just like game number 1. It really felt like Flash Syndicate were in control from start to finish. Some really good plays, though, by Lewis that Zinzao managing to find, particularly those second spawn of grubs. They really managed to, I think, find an angle, but unfortunately, they didn't really do anything with it, right? They had the tools, but they never used them to craft anything significant, and that is what happens when that goes down. So it's going to be a 2-0 for Flash Syndicate. They are going to be a 2-0 team here in the Risen Dominate League. And yeah, just look at the gold graph here. The damage from the Zinzao is so high, 21.2k damage, really separating him from the rest of the squad. But unfortunately, it really felt like he was a one-man for a many-man job. So he got picked off, he got taken down, he tried his best, but the rest of Flash Syndicates were just too strong. Look at the damage coming out from them as well. The Ziggs, the Aurora, the Yone, these carry champions did just that in this game.
Yeah, something to really keep in mind was that Zenzel held gold for a very long time before he backed for the first set of items.
Yep.
That's where that goal differential was kind of leaning in their way. I think if he had those early items, may have been able to give them a better opportunity to find more plays and shut down these other laners that were already ahead. I didn't feel like the top lane was given much priority and kind of just sacrificed to try and make plays in the other lanes. May have not been the best strategy and something to kind of keep in mind watching forward, just because, Lissandra was already squishy. Yone had that better early game. As you can see in the damage charts, though, I mean, Yone was an unstoppable force with the Aurora and Ziggs, having multiple abilities that can land through several enemy champions here today.
We talked about it in the draft, but layering of those ultimates really key for this comp, and that's kind of where we see the gold lead balloon to around that 14-minute mark. Kind of when those turret plates drop and you're able to roam around the map more freely and just kind of go for those 5v5 fights. That's really when the game opened up and felt very difficult for Abandoned Lewis to play. But I agree with you. It felt like the Xin Zhao in particular, not backing until 9.5 minutes, really stunted its ability to follow up on a lot of these Elaine plays that were being made by Not Important. And potentially, in another world, it gets the items, it can go toe to toe with the Viego, and it can maybe net them some kind of gold lead that they can take into a win. But snap back to reality. There go the Flash Syndicates. They will be 2-0 in the Dominate division here on this Sunday afternoon. So thank you so much for everyone for joining us. Thank you, Bubble, for stepping in on such short notice. It was a pleasure having you here. So we will see you guys all next week, and have a great night.